people don't want no world without white folks. Everything we do is to copy white folks and to be included by them. For me, it's one race.
Right.
You either a coon or you are African. You stood in solidarity with the oppressor over the oppressed. Y'all better never call LeBron James an activist ever again in your life.
We definitely got to call him an activist.
He ain't
but
no activist.
It goes back to what...
He's an actor.
Wow.
Be black all the time or be black none of the time. Black queens forever, snow bunnies never.
An honor, privilege, and a pleasure. Once again, class is in session. And I am joined by a true scholar, a true educator. I say that a lot in these sessions, but this brother has the credentials and accreditation to back all of that up. Joining me again, I mean, we did this first at Howard University, more than 5 years ago, more than half a decade ago, when I was just starting Cannon's classes. And he dropped so much wisdom and knowledge then, and I know he's back to do it again. The author of Psychoacademic Holocaust, also the author of the new book, Black Parent Advocate, truly someone who has affected the culture, doctor of clinical psychology and a certified school psychologist. He has all the credits to back up all of the big talk and controversy he creates, the King Kong of consciousness, the one and only Dr. Umar Johnson.
Peace. Glad to be with you.
my brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So much to discuss, man. We always have great conversations.
Yes, sir.
And so much tutelage and information is available to all the people watching. So definitely get your Cannon's class notebooks out and start taking notes. But today I want to actually start from the origin story of the King Kong of consciousness.
Yes, sir.
Because, again, even when saying Dr. Umar, that name has almost become more famous.
Yes.
Yes. And the persona has become a lot more famous than maybe the actual work that you have done and the work that you continue to set forth. So I would love to even, tell the beginnings, tell the origins, and who is the man, Dr. Umar Johnson? Where is he from?
Sure. It began for me in the ghettos of North Philadelphia, from the same neighborhood as Bill Cosby.
Wow, okay.
That's where I was born. That's where I was raised. However, we spent about 3 years in Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Okay.
My father was in the United States Marine Corps.
Okay.
And he was a pretty strict parent.
Right.
And I'm the oldest of 5 sons that my mother has, 4 that my father has.
Okay.
And so while we were living in North Carolina, I often felt like a lonely child because I didn't have a big brother. And so I decided then in the 2nd grade that when I grow up, I'm going to be a psychologist.
Wow.
Because I want other children who don't have older siblings to talk to be able to come to me and discuss anything on their mind.
Wow.
So it was that need for someone to converse with early on in life that led me into the field of psychology. Now, I can't remember where I actually heard the word psychology from, but I clearly remember repeating at that time in the 2nd grade in Jacksonville that I wanted to be a psychologist. I didn't know if it was clinical psych or school psych or forensic psych. I just knew I wanted to help children feel better about themselves. So when I returned to Philadelphia, my parents divorced. We returned to North Philadelphia, and the neighborhood, which I was fortunate enough to live in, the neighborhood school, George G. Meade Elementary School, it just so happened that there was a Black history class there. The school district of Philadelphia did not require it. Somehow this was an inside job that was done by the Caucasian principal, Mr. Levin, the American African vice principal, Mr. Huff, and the Black history teacher, Mrs. Green. And so we had Black history class for my 4th grade year and my 5th grade year. That was my introduction into Black consciousness. So I was about 9 or 10. And also that was my introduction into public speaking because there was a Black History Month oratorical contest. And I entered both years, and I won 1st place both years.
Oh, wow.
And I never shut up since. Now,
what was the speeches? You remember what the speeches?
I don't remember the speeches.
I remember.
Ooh,
I remember my first one. I remember it was
that
like 8 years old, 3rd grade. I was Dr. Charles Drew.
Ooh. Yes, sir.
I remember that. I dressed up
Yes,
in
sir.
my church outfit and
Wow,
talked about
wow.
the blood plasma and all
Yes,
that.
sir. Yes, sir.
So I remember those days.
Yes, sir. Wow. Wow. I don't remember what I spoke about. I remember winning. And so after I graduated from Meade, well, let me back up a bit. When we came back for 6th grade, there was no Black History class. And I remember that really bothered me because I really loved Black History class.
Yeah.
And they said the program was done away with. I'm not sure if Miss Green was still at the school or not, but I know I was hurt that my last year at elementary school, there would be no Black History class. Now, mind you, while I'm attending Meade Elementary School at 18th and Oxford in North Philadelphia, about 5 blocks away at 16th and Cecil B. Moore Avenue is the international headquarters of Marcus Garvey's UNIA.
Wow.
So this is the largest Black organization in modern history, the movement that gave us the red, black, and green flag.
Right.
My mother purchased my tennis shoes at the Jewish-owned Hollywood sneaker store right next to the Garvey building.
Wow.
Since the 4th grade.
Wow.
I never knew it was the Garvey building until I almost graduated from college during undergrad.
Wow.
So 12 years,
Yeah.
sneakers are being bought right here, and I have no idea that next door is one of the oldest pieces of property that we still owned in the Garvey movement.
Wow.
And so when I came out of Meade, I went to Bieber Middle School in West Philadelphia. It was rumored that Will Smith's mom might have been one of the secretaries in the office. I don't know if that's true or not. From there, I went to the Scotland School for Veterans Children in Chambersburg. That was a residential school for the children of veterans. My father being a veteran of the Marine Corps, that allowed me the opportunity to go to Scotland. They wanted to throw me out because I didn't pledge the flag.
Wow.
Because we were raised Sunni Orthodox Muslim. And then in 10th grade, my father converted from Sunni Islam to Shia Islam.
Right.
Okay. And in Islam, you don't pledge allegiance to anyone but God.
Right.
And so I remember sitting in auto shop one day, and the auto teacher told everybody to stand up. And I stood up, but I didn't pledge.
Right.
And he said, Johnson, put your hand over your heart and pledge. This is a military school, for crying out loud.
All right.
I said, I don't pledge the flag.
Right.
So he sent me to the office. They threatened me with expulsion.
Wow.
What happened was they contacted the State Department of Education in Harrisburg. And Scotland School for Veterans Children was under the jurisdiction of the Department of Veterans Affairs. But it was a publicly funded school.
Wow.
So what they said was, his First Amendment right to freedom of speech protects him from having to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Wow.
This was actually a lawsuit that the Jehovah's Witnesses brought back in the day when their children went to public school and were being forced to pledge the flag. And they said, what about freedom of religion and freedom of speech?
Right.
So not pledging the flag is a protected form of expression.
Wow.
And so they told the superintendent at the Scotland School that you cannot make him pledge the flag because this is a publicly funded school and he has a right not to.
Wow.
So I became famous amongst the students.
Yeah.
'Cause he's the kid who don't pledge the flag. They want to kick him out. They can't kick him out.
Right.
So, that was the beginning of the activism.
Right.
So I get to Millersville University. I join the Black Student Union. I get elected BSU president. My first act of office was the Million Man March.
Wow.
The first one.
Wow.
October 16th, 1995.
95, yeah.
95.
Yeah.
I got elected right before that, and we took a bus down to D.C. It was one of the greatest experiences I ever had. There was a church that put us up. We slept in the church. They had a buffet full of food. We cracked jokes all night. We woke up at the crack of dawn. We caught the metro train down to the mall in D.C. We were some of the first people at the march.
Oh, wow.
That's how early we left the church. It was still dark outside.
Oh, wow.
Sun ain't even up.
Wow.
When we got out there, we said, wow, we early. It might have been 30 people.
Oh, wow.
And half of them was us, literally.
Yeah.
And we at the front where Minister Farrakhan is going to give his speech, right?
Yeah.
By the time that sun came up, it was like 1 million people out there.
Wow.
We don't even know where they came from, brother. It was one of the greatest experiences, I ever had in my life. So that was my first act of office. My last act of office was we endowed the first student-led permanent scholarship in the Black Student Union's history at Millersville. And we did that with the money we raised from the Jay-Z KRS-One concert that we had my senior year.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I was the first BSU president in the state of Pennsylvania to bring Jay-Z to a concert.
Oh, that's
You know what I
fire.
mean? We didn't get along too much backstage though.
Oh, really?
Nah, because his homies from Brooklyn kept pulling women backstage.
Oh.
And, you know, we in a white hick town.
Yeah.
And the police are like, if it gets too crowded down there, we shutting the concert down.
Right.
And I'm like, we raised all this money to get Jay-Z and KRS-One. No way you're going to shut this down. So I'm telling his people, y'all can't keep bringing people back here. They're going to shut us down.
Right.
Now, we didn't really have a verbal altercation too much. It was mostly his squad.
Right.
But me and him had some words because he didn't want to stop him from pulling the women
So
back.
you had words with Jay-Z.
Me and Jay-Z had words. Yes, we did. And KRS-One, who was hot at the time,
Right.
Step Into My World just came out.
Okay.
He was the main act.
Yeah.
Jay-Z was just about to drop Hard Knock Life Volume 1.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And so KRS-One's people said, if it get too crowded back here, he not performing.
Yeah.
So I'm really like, y'all got to chill.
Yeah, because I
You know what
need
Yes, sir.
I need the teacher to
Yes,
teach.
sir. But in any event, everything went well. We raised about $30,000 to $50,000 that night. And we
I
took
wonder
all
if
that
Jay-Z
money.
remembers that.
He probably remembers. He's not going to admit it, but he remembers it. And we endowed that scholarship. So I graduate. I joined the Garvey movement. Most of my work was through the Garvey movement. So I'm a school psychologist. No, that's undergrad.
Yeah.
I joined the UNIA. I'm doing my work through the UNIA.
Okay.
I go back to Millersville to become a school psychologist.
Okay.
But I'm still going back and forth to the Garvey meetings in Philly, Millersville, 90 minutes away, driving.
Right.
Okay, when I graduate with my first master's in school psychology, I come back to Philly full time. I'm interning with the school district of Philadelphia to get my permanent cert. And I'm doing work with the Garvey movement.
Right.
A couple years later, Marcus Garvey's younger son, Dr. Julius Garvey, he's a throat surgeon and thoracic surgeon in New York. He's still alive.
Right.
Okay, he comes to the African American Museum in Philadelphia as part of an exoneration program that our division of the Garvey movement in Philly was hosting to clear Garvey's name from the trumped-up charges J. Edgar Hoover put on him back in 1923, right?
Right.
He goes to jail 25 to 27.
Right.
When Garvey gets out of jail in 27, he's deported.
Right.
But what he did not know at the time, President Calvin Coolidge commuted Garvey's sentence. He did it because he didn't want to lose the black vote that year.
Right.
And because Garvey was so popular, he knew that if he was still in jail, black folks might not vote for
at
you.
all.
So he committed his sentence, right?
Yeah.
The sentence did not require Garvey to be deported. Wow. Marcus Garvey never had to be deported from the United States, but nobody told him.
Wow.
It wasn't until after he sailed back to Jamaica
Wow.
did he find out that the president never required you to leave the country.
Wow.
But once he left, they would never let him back in.
Right.
Look how history would have been made different because so many organizations after Garvey copied his whole program.
Indeed.
Gave him no credit for it.
Right.
You see, but if Garvey would have never been deported, a lot of them organizations would have never been created because when Garvey was here, Garvey was everything.
Yeah.
You know, 13 million members. Never done before, never done
We
since.
might have had our own country within this country.
Right, absolutely. So that's the irony of that. But getting back to the Garvey movement, so Dr. Julius Garvey comes to the museum. We're raising consciousness to exonerate Garvey. I'm the host of the event, but nobody really know me too much outside of Philly.
Right.
So there's a brother from D.C., Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. Well, excuse me, not a doctor, brother Nnamdi Azikiwe.
Yeah.
He says, you need to go to Africa. I said, why? And at the time, I'm Minister of Education for the whole Garvey movement.
Right.
I said, why? He said, they need to hear you. You're a pretty good speaker. You need to go to Africa. I said, let's do it. I've never been to Africa. Right. So he puts me in touch with a travel agent. They put me in touch with the UNIA in South Africa, the UNIA in Nigeria, the UNIA in Senegal. So I go to Africa for 30 days and 30 nights for the first time by myself.
Wow.
This was July 2nd to August 1st, 2005. I spent a week in Ethiopia, a week in South Africa, a week in Nigeria, a week in Senegal.
Wow.
When I get back, I'm hyped. I'm ready to do the work. I got the ancestors with me. I've been to Africa. Let's go.
Right.
And at the time, there were some rumblings in the UNIA, the Garvey movement, that I was getting too big for my britches.
The Malcolm X.
Yes.
That's
exactly
UNIA.
what I went through. That's exactly what I went through. And so they said he wants titles and he think he's Marcus Garvey and da-da-da. So I said, since y'all think I'm title hungry, I'm giving up all my titles. I don't need no titles.
Wow.
So I resigned as Minister of Education. I resigned as first vice president of Philly. Still was a member, but I gave up the titles, right?
Right.
That's 2005. I had to do my pre-doctoral internship 2008 to 2009. 1 year after that, September the 18th of 2010, I get invited to Chicago for a public access television interview. A Hebrew Israelite brother named Dawa Yisrael. He just passed 2 years ago. Nobody told me. I was angry because I wanted to go to his funeral. I fly to Chicago. I do the interview with Dawa. At the end of the interview, I asked Dawa for a copy of the DVD. We were still on DVDs in 2010.
Right.
He said, "This is the only one I got. I'll send you one later." I said, "Okay, no problem, but I really need that."
Yeah.
At the last minute, he said, "I'm going to give you this one because I could get another later."
Yeah.
If he doesn't give me that DVD, Brother Nick, we might not be here right now.
Wow.
Because what happens is 6 weeks later, I'm speaking in Harlem for the first time.
Right.
So I'm at 125th and 5th at the National Black Theater.
Right.
And, of course, I'm hyped because all the great Pan-Africanists came through Harlem, Garvey included.
Yeah.
So I have copies of the Chicago interview from September 18th with me on October 30th.
Wow.
Give those out.
Right.
I lie to you not. Within 48 hours, if that long, my phone started ringing, and it's never stopped in 14 years.
Wow.
It was almost overnight. London, Nigeria, Australia, Canada, California, Phoenix. I never seen no area codes except 215, 267, Pennsylvania,
yeah.
484. Life would never be the same after October 30th of 2010. So then, I'm a school psychologist, right?
Yeah.
I have these schools that pay me good money to do their psychological evaluations.
Yeah.
I start getting so many requests to speak that I had to make a decision.
Wow.
You either going to give up part of your career
Right.
to carry on your mission, or you're going to have to cut back on your mission to continue with your career. I chose the mission.
Right.
Best decision I ever made. I don't regret it.
Right.
So I gave up a bunch of the schools I was responsible for so I could continue to do the work.
Wow.
2014, I hear about the St. Paul's College in Virginia and HBCU about to go up for sale. That's what started us raising money for the FDMGA campus that we finally purchased in 2019.
Right.
That we about to finish up now. We got some paint and some floors that got to be covered, and we should be ready for the grand opening real soon. All we got is superficials now.
Man.
Everything's done.
Then that's awesome. I mean, because people, the few things, and it's such a remarkable story, but a lot of stuff like the naysayers, the haters, and the low frequency livers always
And
like
the YouTube and struggle streamers.
yeah. They like to come at you about the school and say that you've been scamming people about this school. So I know you can't wait to actually open the school and prove all the haters wrong.
Honestly, I want to do it for the supporters and the donors. Because the haters, as you know, they always going to have something to say.
Absolutely.
So once the school is open, it'll be another issue.
Yeah,
you follow me?
Yeah.
So I don't focus on them. It's for the people who held me down this whole time.
Yeah.
The elders who donated and the young people who supported it. People came out to help us paint and help us clean, help us move. I want to do it for them because
And for the kids that are going to actually attend the school.
absolutely. I want to do it for them because they're the ones who said, I'm going to stand with Dr. Umar against this negativity until I see what becomes of it.
Right.
So I want to get the school done for them so they can take a break of having to be so resilient against this onslaught of accusations and condemnations. And to your point, we were audited by the IRS a couple years ago because of the complaints from the YouTubian struggle streamers.
Wow.
They came, They even said that we heard that the school is not in the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy's name. The school is in your name. So they were told that I made the school my personal property. You follow me? Yeah. So we had to show paperwork and everything that we did not hustle the money, steal the money, and that the school was not my personal property, but is the property of the FDMG Academy Corporation. But they came through, went through the paperwork.
So now the feds and the government know it's legit.
Oh, yeah. So when they say I'm scheming, I'm like, well, listen, you didn't have the feds in here.
Yeah.
So if I was scheming, being who I am, you could best believe they would have dealt with me accordingly.
So can we talk about the school and education specifically for a minute? Because someone who has gone through the public school system, and I've heard you speak many times where you just break it down, and we've even discussed it on, and I know it's in both books when it comes to public education. Why is it important for you to create a school outside of that system, and for even the people who, everybody's not going to be able to go to the Frederick Douglass Garvey School, but those same ideologies, the curriculum you may be putting forth, people would like to implement that in a homeschooling structure, or even the concept of specifically our black young men need to be educated by us.
Yes.
Can you break that down and
Yes.
why that is important for why you felt like that's really what's going to save, the black community, and specifically how, I mean, it's definitely a new trend where we pulling our kids out of these public schools right and left.
We are. Now, I'm going to give you both sides of this homeschool initiative argument.
Okay.
The pro and the con. First, let me back up. The most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said, don't take the kinks out of your hair, take them out of your mind. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black History Month, said, when you control a man's mind, you don't have to worry about his actions.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell him where to go. He will go on his own as his conditioning and indoctrination makes it so.
Yeah.
You don't have to send him to the back door. He will go without being told.
Yeah.
And when he gets to the back door, if there is no back door, he will make a back door to walk out of it.
Yeah.
With that being said, public education in America for the black child is a plantation. It operates identically to the plantation system of antebellum Southern America. The purpose of the public school is to teach the black child how to fit and where to fit in if they expect to survive in America. You are taught who you are, not to find out who you are. You are taught how great the Caucasian is at the expense of your own self-esteem. So people will say that black kids are not taught that they are nobody in school directly. That may be true, but by excluding them from the history, by example and by indication, you're suggesting to them that they are nobody.
Right.
So if we want to birth free-thinking African children, you're going to have to create your own school system, because the purpose of public school in America is to prepare the boys for prison and the girls for poverty.
Wow.
There is nothing else for our children unless we give it to them. Remember, schools were created because the corporations needed better educated low-wage earners.
Right.
So it was big business that went to the government and said, listen, the people you have can't write, can't count, can't read. If you want us to build America into a great capitalist economy, you got to give us better educated low-wage earners. That's the purpose of school. So if there are no jobs for black youth and schools were built to prepare a labor force for capital, if there's no labor, what's the purpose of education?
Wow.
Prison for the boys, poverty for the girls.
Wow.
So when you come to homeschool, you say black parents are pulling their children out to homeschool. I support homeschooling, but as a intervention, not a solution.
Okay.
And the reason for me that homeschooling is an intervention and not a solution is most of our children, 67% on average, are raised by single mothers. So if I'm being raised by a single mother working 2 and 3 jobs, raising 2 or 3 children, how is she going to pay the bills, raise the children, and properly educate me at the same time? In other words, I think single black mothers already have enough to do. I don't think it's fair that the black community also, on top of everything else they have to do, including trying to turn boys into men without the presence of the dad, we are also, on top of that, telling them you're responsible for the education of their children. One or two things are going to happen. Either the mother is going to get burnt out, or the children are going to lose out by virtue of her not being able to give them an effective education. Now, if you come from a 2-parent household, you're fine, because daddy can work, mama can stay home and teach. You're all right. But most of our children are raised by single mothers, not married ones. And that's why, for me, expecting homeschooling to become a great big solution for the black community is unrealistic, because most of our black mothers are already taxed to the max trying to pay bills and take care of their children. The solution, Brother Nick, is independent schools. And it bothers me that whenever we talk about independent schools, people say, well, why can't they just homeschool? Why is it that we can expect the best of everything except for our children when it's time for them to get an education? What I mean by that, when we go buy a car, we get the best car. When we go home shopping, we get the best house. When we go on a vacation, we choose the best vacation. If a sister going to get her hair done, she going to pay top dollar for the best hairstyle. Brother wants some shoes, he going to go get a $300 pair of Jordans. Why is it that we can have the best of everything except education for our children? Why do we got to settle for homeschooling when you got empty public schools in every major city? You got empty schools in LA. You got empty schools in Oakland. You got empty schools in New York and North Carolina. You got empty schools in Chicago and Detroit. I know because I've been in so many of them when I was school hunting. Why do we got to settle for homeschool?
Right.
When you got schools that are empty that we can buy and turn into the schools that our children need.
Right.
For me, homeschooling is a shortcut and a cop-out on behalf of the black community who don't want the full-time accountability and responsibility of educating our children the right way full-time.
Wow. So in this independent schooling process, I've heard you speak about this, the importance of black male teachers.
Yes, you got to have black men.
Right. Black men have to teach black men.
You got to have black men.
Tell us why.
Because black boys, first of all, black boys are being suffocated by feminine energy. They have the mother all day, grandmom all day, auntie all day, sister all day, cousin all day, white female teacher in public school all day. They don't need no more feminine energy.
Yeah.
They got enough. In fact, I would argue, Nick, when we look at the intensification of extermination taking place in our neighborhood, black on black male fratricide, a lot of the energy that these black men are rubbing up against each other with is feminine. It's not masculine. They think it's masculine. But for me to take your life because you looked at me the wrong way, I'm going to take your life because you looked at my... It's emotional. That's feminine. That's not masculine. Feminine is emotional. Masculine is cognitive. We're going to reason our way out of this. You see that? Right. So a lot of this black on black crime, it's feminine energy. But we can't see it for what it is because they're
black
using
male
guns.
Wasn't in the home, so therefore... Because
absolutely.
When we had the gangs, there was structure when it was ran by
men,
yeah,
grown men,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And so with the school system, we got to have males because black men don't have dads. So in that classroom, you need an instructional leader who can also be a mentor, quasi-father figure.
Yeah.
If I don't have a father, and I go to school and there's a male teacher who I know cares about me,
right,
I'm going to do extra because I want his attention and I want his approval.
Yes.
But if you're just going to throw me another snow bunny, if you're just going to throw me another black woman up there, I see them all day long. I have no motivation at all to prove to her that I can read, write, and count. But you stick a black man in there and don't let him not only be my teacher and my mentor, my role model, and my father figure, but on top of all that, he might be the basketball coach. He might be the football coach.
Right.
I really got to impress him because I want that starting small forward spot, and I'm not going to get it if I don't ace these grades.
Wow.
There's so many benefits that accrue to our sons by having black men in the classroom. So the natural question becomes, why are they not there? Because the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association, these are the two largest public school teacher unions in America. They are dominated by white women and white people. Wow. They don't want those black men in the classroom, not at the expense of their white teachers.
Right.
Because if you say every black kid in South Central, Compton, every black kid in Pasadena, in Richmond, in San Diego, in Sacramento, all of them got to have a black male teacher. In order to do that, you have to lay off all these white women. The union is there to protect their white teachers' jobs, not to give them up. So even though having black boys is what's best, our mission is not what's best for black boys. Our mission is to protect the teachers and their jobs.
Wow.
The union is the enemy of academic innovation.
Right. But obviously the solution is independent schools.
Independent. You control it.
Yeah, and
The
then you can pay those teachers whatever they need to be
whatever
paid.
they need.
Yeah.
The beauty of FDMG, or any independent school for that matter, if you want to take them on a class trip, you take them. You need parent permission.
Right.
If I want to take them to Africa for a week, I take them.
Right.
I don't have to go through the bureaucratic superstructure to get permission from the assistant superintendent and the superintendent and the chair. You don't have to go through all the red tape.
Right.
If I want to teach them how to use firearms responsibly, we teach them.
Right.
You just need permission from the parents.
Right.
If you're talking about a need to control the direction of the education of African children, you got to go independent schools.
Right.
But the reason we don't have them, Brother Nick, which is the same reason we ain't got hospitals, same reason why we ain't got manufacturing centers, same reason why we ain't got distribution networks, same reason why we ain't got black banks or black supermarkets, is black people don't want the financial responsibility of having to build, sustain, and maintain institutions.
But that has to be a new mindset, because at a certain period of time, that's all we wanted. We wanted to have our own of everything from, the days of Reconstruction and on. It was about creating our own communities and owning everything, from the banks, from the small businesses, from the schooling, from the colleges. We wanted for our own. So,
but we got seduced away from independence. And this is what I mean by that. When you go to the Black Wall Street,
a lot of people say that's the civil rights movement.
Actually, before the civil rights movement, we were seduced on a whole new level.
Right.
But the seduction began early.
Okay.
That was just the apex.
Right.
And what I mean by that, when you look at the Black Wall Street era of America, that ends around your 1930s and 40s, right? I'm going to say by the end of the 20s, it was just about over.
Right.
And one of the things that helped bring it to an end was the Great Depression of 1929, right? So then, in 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt beats presidential incumbent Herbert Hoover for the presidency of the United States. It's the first time a Democrat is elected in quite some time, right?
Right.
It's also the first time that the Democrats caught a sizable percentage of the black vote. Up until FDR, we were Republicans because the Republican Party was founded to stop the spread of slavery.
Yeah.
And it was the Republican Party that wrote the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment. So why would we give up the party of Abraham Lincoln?
The Democrats were the Klans.
Absolutely. They were the Klan.
Yeah.
They were the Klan.
That was the Klan.
And the Dixiecrats right along with it.
Yeah.
So when FDR wins the presidency, and they get a nice chunk of the black vote, they don't get the majority of the black vote. Overall, we still stay with Hoover and the Republicans, but they got more than they ever got in 32.
Yeah.
So people said black people starting to switch over. Why? Because when FDR came in with his New Deal programs, and then when he ran for re-election in 36, that's when we switched.
Right.
That's the first time the Democrats got a sizable proportion of the black vote in a very long time. And we have been stuck with them from then until today.
Wow.
88 to 92 years of voting overwhelmingly Democrat.
Right.
You see? In the highest amount they ever got for us was Barack Obama and Joe Biden when we voted about 90% Democrat. That's the highest ever, right? But here's my point. FDR's New Deal seduced us into believing we no longer had to own our own anymore. America was changing, and you can now come and be a part of the system and the society.
The great
and
melting
to help
pot.
sell this, although I don't blame her, Queen Mother Mary McLeod Bethune was the face of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's black cabinet. Remember, he's the first president in American history to have an unofficial black cabinet. He didn't give them real titles. They were unofficial.
Right.
But they had to say so in everything that he did.
Right.
This made black people visible to the federal branch of the government more than we've ever seen before.
Right.
So that helped swing us over.
Yeah.
Also, Nick, keep in mind that FDR was president for 4 terms. He was in it for 12 years.
Wow.
He was in it for 12 or 16 years.
Only president to ever do that, right?
Yeah, he's the only one who ever did that. It might have been one other, but he went in at 33 and he left in 45 when he died.
Right.
So he was in there for 12. So that's 3 terms.
Yeah.
4, 8, 12.
Yeah.
So he was in there long enough to really seduce black folks that this was the way to go.
Right.
So we kind of got seduced away from having our own because when a New Deal came, FDR and Mary McLeod Bethune and other prominent blacks were having a seat at the table, no title, just a seat. We said maybe we don't need our own no more.
Wow.
And so FDR convinced us to go Democrat.
Yeah.
And we stayed with them from that 36 election all the way up until just about the Civil Rights Bill.
Yeah.
See, we started second guessing them during the Civil Rights Bill because John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Baines Johnson wasn't doing nothing about Emmett Till. They wasn't doing nothing about Medgar Evers, the sit-ins, the freedom rides. You follow me? So black folks was like, maybe we need to go back to the Republicans. And Lyndon Baines Johnson said, and this is exactly what he said, we have to do something for them. Not enough to make any real change, but just to make them comfortable. And I'm paraphrasing, but this is basically what he said. I'm going to give them this civil rights bill. And when I give them this civil rights bill, I will have them Negroes voting Democrat for the next 100 years.
And he didn't say Negroes.
Absolutely.
He said the other term.
Absolutely. So we reinvested in the Democrats from 64 until 2008, Barack Obama. And then Barack carried us through Joe Biden. And now we are in a crisis right now. Because for the first time, it looks like black people could possibly vote Republican more than Democrat for the first time in a very long time. And even if the Democrats still get the lion's share of the black vote, Donald Trump is still going to carry a large portion of the black vote because the Democrats haven't given black people anything of substance to hang our hat on to justify our 92-year commitment to that party.
Wow. Well said. In that sense, I mean, obviously, we're currently dealing. The election is upon us, and there's a strong black woman representing the Democratic
Now, when
Party.
you say black woman,
here you go.
I need you to qualify that because according to what I've
Howard
seen,
alumni.
Listen,
hate you.
I'm going to tell you like I told D.L. Hughley, Steve Harvey, and Ricky Smiley. I love the HBCU tradition. I love the black fraternity and sororities tradition. But that has nothing to do with holding somebody accountable who's seeking to be the next spokesperson for the country and also more specifically for our community. So here's where I stand. When I look at Kamala's ancestry, and let me be clear about something. Whether she's black or not black ain't my biggest issue. It's what she's going to do for black people.
Right.
The reason Kamala's race has become such a big issue in this election, Brother Nick, is because it's the only thing they're selling the black community in exchange for their vote. So the only thing they've given us has been identity politics. Stay with me.
Okay.
You follow me? Not a word about schools, not a word about prisons, not a word about gentrification, not a word about police extermination, not a word about economic apartheid. All we're hearing is she's a black woman and we should vote for her. If she led with policy, Nick,
right,
I don't even think we would be talking about her racial ancestry if she led with policy. Donald Trump is not black. He's not claiming to be. So there's no need to talk about Donald Trump's ancestry. We can stick to what? Donald Trump's policies.
Right.
But because the black bourgeoisie that is surrounding Kamala Harris is telling black America to vote just because she's black, automatically that means what? We have to make sure she is black.
So, well, you said so much, but I have a few questions.
Sure.
And I have to go to the idea of the two-party politics.
Yes, sir.
As we know, W.B. Du Bois said, there's no such thing as two parties, just one evil party with two names.
I agree.
So
two wings, same bird.
Exactly. Now, in that, we know there's a lot of pageantry in the presidency.
Yes.
And
it's mostly pageantry, I would argue.
Mostly pageantry, less policy.
Yes.
Because we know the lobbyists and the money are the ones who really control everything. In that, it's all about identity politics, as you said, and what's representing us. So, as a Pan-Africanist, someone who knows that it's all about pageantry, what we have representing our country as the United States of America can be one or two things right now. A billionaire, older white man who has been known to not care about the black community.
Correct.
Or a black woman A woman of color. Even if you don't take the word black away, we'll go woman of color.
We got to stay with black,
Okay,
and we're going to talk about why.
Okay, but I'm saying
It can't be woman of
if
color.
for the rest of the representation, for the rest of the world to look at the United States of America and the pageantry that we represent, what would be a better choice of identity in pageantry than a white man that's all about money and told us that he cares nothing about us but cares about him? That's the pageantry.
Okay.
Or a woman that at least, and just start a woman that at least shows that she has some sense of compassion, empathy for the people of the United States of America.
Stay right there. You said a woman who shows that she has some compassion for the people of the United States of America.
Right.
But this is the same woman who said America is not a racist country. This is the same woman who said, I'm not going to do anything that's going to only benefit black people, while she sat in office and watched President Joe Biden pass an anti-Asian hate bill, anti-Asian hate executive order, Native American executive order, LGBTQ executive order, and law. So how can Kamala Harris, the so-called black woman, say that I can't do anything just for black people, but you sat in the White House for 4 years with President Biden and watch him take care of specific groups of non-white people, and you didn't demand one thing for your own black people that you claim to be a part of?
Now, again, because those are a lot of semantics in the sense, because we've heard this argument before. She can say a lot of that stuff is taken out of context. A lot of the process of when she's saying she wants to do things for all people and not just black people specifically. We also know that bill, the Asian hate bill, is actually a bill that is for all.
No, it's not. Did you read it?
I mean, it's a long bill.
Read it.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody. They only discuss Asian and Pacific Islander hate in the COVID-19 hate crimes bill. It is not for everybody. It is for Asians and Pacific Islanders.
Okay.
Now stay with me.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with them protecting
as they should,
Asians and
especially
Pacific
because
Islanders.
it was very specific in that moment.
Yes,
because a lot of that was
my problem.
Right.
My problem
is to say
is
that
how do the Asians get an anti-hate bill after one massacre? And don't get me wrong, that's enough to get a bill. But black people been catching hell for 4 centuries, and we ain't got one yet. And what's been done to us is way worse than what has ever been done to any other group.
There's bills that have protected over the history.
Name me one bill in American history that was written just for black folks since the end of slavery. Give me one. Because the Civil Rights Bill was for everybody. The James Byrd anti-lift, that's for everybody.
The Civil Rights Bill was definitely ushered in by us.
So let me ask you a question. It might have been ushered in by you. All the bills were ushered in by us. Right. But who benefited the most? Affirmative action and the Civil Rights Bill benefited homosexuals and white women far more than it benefited black people. In fact, the Dixiecrats and the Republicans refused to sign it.
Affirmative action?
Yes.
Wow.
There's been recent, yes. And let me tell you how that was. The Republicans and the Dixiecrats told Lyndon Baines Johnson, we're not signing the 1964 Civil Rights Bill if you only limit it to black people. They demanded that you add gender and sexual orientation as protected categories. That's how it ended up including gender, race, ethnicity, all the protected codes.
Right.
Because they said this is not just going to be about black people, because there's an unwritten rule in this country where you don't make laws just for black people.
Well, going back to what I said, as in the pageantry of representation, you still would lean more to say that you would, this old, rich, billionaire, 1% white man be the representation of the United States of America, opposed to a woman who has done the work.
What work?
She's definitely done community work.
What has she done for black people? people. I don't want to hear about people of color because all these other groups within the rainbow, stay with me, can't stand black people any more than white folks. So one of the biggest mistakes we've made in the post-civil rights era was allowing this government to redefine us as people of color. We are not people of color. We are the American Africans, the descendants of those who were kidnapped, brought here, and forced to work for free. We have nothing in common with the Asians, the Latinos, the East Indians, the Arabs, the Chinaman. None of them were enslaved, Nick. Everybody came to America as people. We came to America as property.
Can't argue.
What has she done for us? What has Joe Biden done for us? What has Barack Obama done for us?
Again.
What has Bill Clinton done for us? What has Jimmy Carter done for us?
But because this is the thing, I'm not going to disagree with you because I'm not a Democrat, nor am I a Republican.
Likewise.
But if we're talking about pure representation, because we're not talking policy right now.
Okay, but you're dealing in empty symbolism, Nick.
So
empty symbolism.
What has she done for us? What has the other side done for us?
Neither. And that's why I don't listen. I am an advocate of black people running away. I want to see an underground railroad away from the Democratic Party plantation, and I want to see an underground railroad away from the Republican Party plantation. Run your ass away. Get off the plantation.
So what's the solution? Because
the solution is for the black vote to get organized and to make demands and only exchange your vote for concessions that come from the candidates. We're going to lose no matter who wins.
That's not going to happen in this
The
one.
black vote is disorganized.
Are we going back to the Garvey mentality of we got to go get our own?
We need to, but I don't think we're there. See, I think too many American Africans are motivated by a pursuit to be accepted by white people.
Wow.
I believe the basic goal and direction of black American thought is to be accepted by white people by any means necessary. We don't want freedom because we don't want the accountability and responsibility that comes with freedom.
Wow.
If white people told black America, we're going to give y'all the 10 biggest ghettos, we leaving. They're yours, everything.
Yeah.
Gas, electric, water, welfare, housing, land. You run Chicago. You run Los Angeles. You run Houston. You run Atlanta. You run Philly. We're gone. Negroes will go get them white folks and bring them back the next morning for breakfast. Black people don't want no world without white folks. Everything we do is to copy white folks and to be included by them.
Wow.
Yes.
All right. So I got to just ask this question then. For this election, what we're faced up against, who is Dr. Umar Johnson voting for?
I don't have a reason to vote for either candidate. I might show up and vote for the Honorable Frederick Douglass. I might vote for Queen Mother Ida B. Wells.
Marcus
I might
Garvey.
vote for Sojourner Truth. I might vote for Booker T. I might vote for Fred Hampton, George Jackson. But I promise you one thing, I'm not voting for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. Here's the thing, Brother Nick. Trump had 4 years.
He did.
You've been in there before.
Yeah.
So if you cared about us so much, why we didn't get nothing from you? After the George Floyd protest.
He's saying he did. He said he did a
that's
lot.
A lie.
The
That's
HBCUs.
crap. The HBCUs are struggling. And the big reason why the HBCUs are struggling is because Joe Biden, your Democratic president, changed the name on the White House initiative to HBCUs. It's now the White House initiative on minority-serving institutions. Yes. So now it ain't just about the HBCU. It ain't about those who are the posterity of those who built this country. Now, if you serving Latinos, if you serving homosexuals, if you serving migrants, you can get some of that HBCU money too. That's what they're not talking about. It's no longer just for HBCUs. It's for minority serving institutions, MSI.
Wow.
And one of the worst things the Democrats did to us is they redefined black people within the definition of people of color. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Our 7, we all represent a different ethnic group, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're people of color.
Right.
So when I go to the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, and I say, what percentage of contracts did black people get? I don't know what percentage of contracts black people got, Dr. Umar, but people of color got 30% of California contracts. And then when I go through the list of all the people of color, ain't a black person on the list. People of color, Brother Nick, is a way for them to take care of everybody else and exclude black people while making you think you included as well. We allow them to define us out of existence.
Wow.
I don't ever want to hear people of color. Black people. I want what's best for everybody. Don't get me wrong. Everybody got a right to eat. But nobody been through what my people been through, and nobody will merge this struggle in with the struggle of my people because we were here first. And if anybody going to get any resources, it better be the people who made America what she is.
Now, this is I agree with you 100% because these terms are what kind of get us painted into a corner a lot of time because we get caught up in wanting to call each other African Americans, black. Now it's people of color, where, and even, when it comes to the idea of reparations and stuff, it has to be a descendant of, or as I say, an ascendant of enslavement. So where, even as Barack Obama, as we know, really, he's an African. Not necessarily his lineage did not necessarily come from
of enslaved Africans.
Right. So in that sense, even as someone who represents the diaspora and focuses on, Africa so much, those people, there's a large community and a large group here that aren't descendants of slavery or ascendants of slavery.
Which is fine for me as a Pan-Africanist.
Right.
So I don't have an issue with my African immigrant brothers
right.
who are in the United States from Nigeria or Haiti or Cameroon or from, Bermuda, Bahamas, or from
right.
Canada or Costa Rica or Brazil. For me, it's one race.
Right.
You either a coon or you are African. You see that?
Right.
And you could be an American African coon. You could be a Nigerian African coon. You could be a Toronto African coon. I don't mess with coons, right? So piece the coons out, and then I deal with everybody else. My issue with Barack Obama is not the fact that his ancestors were not enslaved. My issue with Barack Obama is he never fully identified as an African on a full-time basis, and he didn't do anything for his people while in office. If Kamala Harris does have a black grandmother, which would make her a quadroon by Caribbean standards, one black grandparent, you're a quadroon, one black parent, you're a mulatto, and one black great-grandparent, you are an octoroon. So at best, Kamala Harris is a quadroon. Allegedly, her father's mother may have been a Jamaican African, but I just heard recently that picture of that dark woman I saw was not a Jamaican African, but an East Indian living in Jamaica. You see that? So because I said she was a quadroon. I gave her the credit. Right. I said she got one black grandparent. That's a quadroon. If she was raised black and if she always identified as black, I would consider her a black woman. But guess what? When she got sworn in California here as the Attorney General, it was as a South Asian. When she announced her presidency the first time to be vice president under Joe Biden, it was as a South Asian. I've seen multiple interviews where she's being interviewed by people, and either she's calling herself South Asian or they are referring to her as a South Asian, and she never clarifies the interviewer a single time, Brother Nick, to say, yes, I'm South Asian, but I'm also Jamaican African or American African. And most recently, I think you saw the interview of a few days ago where that woman from, was it Fox News or CNBC, one of them, she wanted to clarify with Kamala Harris her racial identity, and Kamala Harris said, next question, please.
Wow.
Be black all the time or be black none of the time. Black queens forever, snow bunnies never.
So much to unpack here that we definitely going to have a part 2 of this Cannon's class, because what I would love to go into on the next one, and maybe we can even wrap it up on this one, is the importance of taking care of our own. Because like you said, when it comes to politics, we really don't have a place in it when it comes to building our own communities up and having policies built specifically for us and taking back the black vote. And it starts with the black dollar. So in that sense, there's a lot of prominent black people, and I've seen you talk about this. And again, like I said, we're gonna have to get into a part 2 on this one, because I really want to tap into the space of the education again, building our own schools, building our own communities, building our own banks. I've seen you speak on, whether it's Jay-Z, whether it's LeBron, whether there's, so many of us who have actually even attempted to build stuff specifically for black people. LeBron has built the school.
He has not built the school. The LeBron James Academy is an Akron public school. As a former school principal, I can tell you that private citizens don't own public schools. The taxpayers of Akron pay the bills at the LeBron James Academy. Now, what LeBron does do, and this is in credit to him,
Yes.
he subsidizes the school.
Right.
He pays for the parents to go to college. He pays for the children to go to college. They get free pairs of his sneakers. He pays for after-school programs. I love what LeBron does. Don't get me wrong.
So that's not an independent school.
It's not an independent. It is a public school paid for by the taxpayers of Ohio. LeBron James don't hire nobody. LeBron James don't discipline nobody. LeBron James didn't come up with the curriculum. LeBron James wasn't sitting in on the interviews for who they hire.
But we have to give him
that
the
is a Snow Bunny Academy. Okay? It's a Snow Bunny Academy. LeBron James don't have no school. Dr. Umar got the school.
So, but we at least got to give him the credit to at least be trying to do, at least put a step forward in the direction of what you're.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yes.
LeBron James, by subsidizing and sponsoring that school, he has done a good job for our children.
Yes.
Right? LeBron James is a black man with a black wife, black father, great father, one of the only professional athletes we can look to with such an extended career to never get into any public trouble, although he came into the NBA as a teenager.
Yeah.
I tip my hat and
Best
I
ever do
salute
it.
him for that.
Yes.
With that being said, I got a big problem with LeBron James caping for Caitlin Clark every time she do something great, but you ain't got no smoke for Angel Reese or Aja Wilson, who's the best player in the whole damn league. But every time Caitlin Clark has a great game, here comes plantation slave LeBron James.
I wouldn't go that far.
Celebrating her.
It's politics.
I'm going to go further.
It's politics.
I'm going to go further. When a certain country went to war against a certain country,
Oh, here we go.
he sided with the aggressor and not the oppressed.
I don't believe
And
it.
I took, publicly he did. What do you mean? Publicly, it's on YouTube. He said, I stand with X. And I said, ain't you supposed to be some kind of an activist or something, Negro? So you're going to stand with them against the bombing and genocide of this group of people over here, but in your own city of Akron, Ohio, when that brother Jalen Walker was shot 100 times by the police, defenseless without a weapon, you prayed for Akron. LeBron said, I got to pray for my city. So why didn't you pray for this country invading and trying to commit genocide against people living in this country? If you can only pray for a black man in your own city murdered by the police with 100 bullets, why didn't you pray for this country and this country? You didn't pray. You stood in solidarity with the oppressor over the oppressed. Y'all better never call LeBron James an activist ever again in your
We
life.
definitely got to call him an activist.
He ain't
but
no activist.
It goes back to what
He's an actor.
he's an athlete who
He's an athlete actor owned by the power structure.
he was great.
Caitlin
He was
Clark,
great
Bunny
in Space
Hoppin.
Jam.
No, he wasn't.
So,
But no. I respect LeBron James.
Nah, facts.
I do.
We
But
have
he's
to.
no activist at all.
well, that it goes back
no
to what
activist at all.
it goes back
To
to.
call him an activist is complete hypocrisy.
No.
Ain't no activism bone in that man's body.
Well,
to
when-
stand with that country, with what they was doing to that country, no activist would do that. And to not stand for the black man who got shot 100 times in your own city, you ain't do nothing.
Well,
But you'll stand with this oppressor against the oppressed. LeBron James is a great father, great athlete, great ambassador for the LeBron James School. He is nobody's activist.
as an activist that you are, because and it goes back to what Malcolm X said. You know what I mean? We're the only community where our activists are the entertainers
And the celebrities.
and the
By
celebrities.
design.
So it's not the duty of the entertainers and the athletes to be the activists. Would you, from what Malcolm X said?
Harry Belafonte turning over in his grave. Dick Gregory turning over in his grave
So,
right
is
now.
this-
Nina Simone turning over in her grave right now. Look at all the
No,
great
but
black
to your
singers
point,
and
now-
actors and athletes
These-
who stood up against oppression. Don't tell me that we could do it back then when it was far more dangerous to advocate
definitely.
for black people, Nick, 40, 50, 60 years ago, that these ninjas can't show up and
But-
show out for their people.
But from the conversations that I was allowed to be a part of with the great Dick Gregory's, the great Harry Belafonte's, and even some of those people that you name, they got some of the same ridicule at that time of not doing enough. Even Dr. King got the same ridicule of not doing enough for black people because they were true people on the front line.
Right.
As you know, where the young people is SNCC, the Freedom Riders, those people at the time, the true, and even when we would go all the way to the Stokeleys and the people who were doing the real work, the frontline work, all the way to the nation, and so many people who felt that those entertainers, even of that time, were doing the equivalent of what a LeBron James is doing today.
Well, I criticize Harry Belafonte because he was a snow bunny hopper.
Yeah. I knew he was gonna go there.
And Sidney Poitier because he was another bunny hopper. Although Sidney Poitier did help finance some of the civil rights struggles. You feel me? So I'm not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I appreciate Sidney Poitier, but y'all had no business with a damn snow bunny.
Here we go.
Mary Black.
So this is going in part one right here because we got so much more because that is exactly what we need to talk about in part two. The Black Parent Advocate.
Yes, sir.
As well as so much more of owning our own.
Yes.
Taking care of our own.
We have to. The problem, Nick, psychologically speaking, black people hate each other more than they hate their collective oppression.
Wow.
We hate each other more than we hate our collective oppression.
And we're going to pause right there.
We would rather leave the white man in charge for another 1,000 years than tolerate each other and come together to build.
That's part one, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to pause right there and get into part two of Candace's class. Dr. Umar is setting the world on fire once again with his very compelling outlook on what we need to do as the black community.
And can I say one more thing?
Please, we're going to do another session.
I got you. For Vice President Harris, she can get my vote. Former President Trump, he could get my vote. Make a public pledge, Donald Trump, of what you're going to do for us when you get in there. That includes one of the 5 major areas of concern for black America.
Which are?
Miseducation, mass incarceration, homelessness and gentrification, police assassination, and economic apartheid. Same thing for Vice President Harris. You are still in office right now. Get Joe Biden to sign an executive order only for black people that deals with one of those 5 areas I just mentioned. If she does that, if she say, I'm going to do this for schools, and it be something significant. I'm going to do this for prison or criminal justice. I'm going to do this for gentrification and homelessness. I'm going to do this for police brutality and genocide. I'm going to do this for economic discrimination and economic apartheid. She will get my vote.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do this once again. Like, subscribe. I know the comments is going crazy.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Umar Johnson. Class is adjourned.